today. Okay, now I lost my train of thought. Oh, if we prepare the students correctly, they're more likely to be, and when I say correctly, it's not there's right or wrong way, but if we adequately prepare them, they're more likely to be successful as they go. So while we're here today, we want to talk and have a discussion on the workshop, what you learned. Have you implemented any of those strategies? It's transcribing everything I'm saying. I have to get rid of that. Okay. We want to talk about the workshop. Did you implement any strategies as you started this semester? Did you implement any strategies as you started last semester? And as we do this, I'll be taking some notes, and we're going to put some things back into the Blackboard course. This recording will go into the Blackboard course so that you'll have the opportunity to go back and look at some of the things that we have talked about. So I have a question. What do you expect from your students? Dr. Ella Williams has raised her hand.
Yes. Um, now I didn't have the opportunity to attend that workshop, but I do have a notebook that was given to me when I started work last fall with the college, and it has a lot of good examples in there. I do expect student participation, and one of the main things it talks about in there is communication. So with my students, I've started the year off with what I call communications skill practice. And, I have them to introduce themselves to the class and tell something about their past, their present, and their future. That's one of the things that was in that notebook. And it's a lot of good ideas in there. Also, I start the lesson off by showing them a short video. It may be 3 minutes or 4 minutes, and that's just to get them, interested, and then we go from there.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. That sounds like some good ideas. Anyone else would like to share?
I would like to compliment you because that sounds like a great strategy and is actually one of our QEP goals is having one of those low stakes grades right at the beginning just to get students interested and get something in the books so that they can feel engaged in the course. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Dr. Williams.
Sorry.
Dr. Williams, can you share what you teach so that everybody knows? I mean, I know what you teach, but there may be some people on this call that don't know what you teach. And I would like for everybody to do that as they speak so that everybody knows what your subject area is.
Okay, I teach the learning frameworks class to the early college high school students. I did last fall and spring and then started again this year. This is my second year.
Chelsea Galloway.
Yes, hi. I teach English, but I also do developmental and early college as well. But I wanted to piggyback on that because this is something that Leah and I have talked about a lot on the QEP committee, is that those low stakes assignments on week 1 that are more about communication. I do what I call like an email etiquette assignment, where I not only teach them how to properly send an email to professors where they include, the course number, the full course number. I actually explain what those numbers mean and their P number and things so we can easily track them. But it also counts as a low stakes grade. They send me an email, answer a few questions regarding my course. And then, of course, the syllabus quiz is also a good, I call it a syllabus scavenger hunt to make it fun. But just different ways for them to open lines of communication and dialogue, especially when we're dealing with virtual students or in my case, developmental students who maybe have never seen these platforms before. So
that's great. I'm a real game player. Whenever I'm in the classroom, I like to play games and do lots of active strategies so that I'm not standing up in front of the classroom just talking the whole time. Who wants to talk for an hour? Not me. Mr. Bullock, Donald Bullock.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Just kind of in the same vein that Miss Galloway and Miss Williams brought up. My first week is really a syllabus type quiz, and in that syllabus quiz, it also has questions about like, what is my name? What is my email? How can you contact me? And I make sure that they have to turn it in through Blackboard, because one of the problems that I've noticed that I've encountered, because I also teach the dual credit courses at Bob Hope, is they have such a hard time getting into Blackboard, getting comfortable learning Blackboard. So this is a way for me to know, okay, each one of these students is able to get in and feel comfortable, and since that one's a quiz, I give them a writing assignment, and it's a very simple writing assignment. I teach art appreciation, and at the correctional facilities, I teach drawing 1 and drawing 2. But for the dual credit, I give them an easy 1-page writing assignment on what they think art is. So it's a completely opinion-based piece. They can't get it wrong. It's to see, are you going to do the work? Are you willing to do the work? Give me the word count, and again, be able to turn it on through Blackboard.
Excellent. Leah, your hand is still raised. Do you have something else to say?
Yes, I'm so sorry. Again, compliments to everyone. What I think is so great about everyone doing those unique, different low stakes grades assignments is that we all benefit from it. When I get students who have already been through Chelsea's class, I don't have to worry about them writing an email properly. When I get students who were in Mr. Bullock's class, now I don't have to worry so much about them being able to submit work through Blackboard. So if we all use these teaching strategies in different ways, by the time a freshman gets to be a sophomore, they should have built up these skills. So that's awesome that we're all participating in that.
And what Leah just said is exactly what we want to happen. We're training our first time in college, our freshman students, how to be more successful as they move through their college career. And what we hope is that after they leave us and go on to a 4-year institution, they have the strategies to be able to take those high stakes assignments and complete them effectively. Because we all know that when you get to those 300 and 400 level classes, it's nothing like what it was with your 100 and 200 level classes. The expectations are a lot higher. And as we graduate more students from Lamar State College, Port Arthur, we want our students to know that they can be successful when they go to those 4-year institutions. What else do we expect from our students? Dr. Williams, you put your hand up again.
Yes, I just wanted to say, kind of piggybacking off of that, we do teach and train the students to be successful, and to continue their education. What I've been talking to my students about, and we've seen some videos that go with the lessons. For example, I showed them one that has to do with famous people who made it against the odds. So my reason for showing that is because students may see this as a little bit difficult, because high school, college, there is a difference. And that's what we talk about in the textbook. There's a difference. And I want them to know, just because they run into a difficulty, that's no reason to quit. That's the time that you need to persevere. We talk about those different mindsets, whether I'm a victim or whether, I'm a creator and all of that. And, that's to get them to thinking, well, maybe this was a little bit difficult for me, but I can do it if I, put the right things in place, if I persevere, so that's something that you want them to know, that just because it may be a little bit difficult, or maybe you failed at something. That's no reason to quit, because we have many famous people who failed in the beginning, but they came out on top. Thank you.
We appreciate your contributions, Dr. Williams. Okay, so whenever I started thinking about what I expected from students, a couple of things that I wrote down were realistic expectations, that our students need to have realistic expectations about college. They need to come to class and complete assignments, right? And they need to be able to adapt. Students, if they don't succeed in their first assignment, they need to have strategies to be able to change to try and succeed. And that's where we come in, giving them more things to do to increase their chance of success. It's like you want things to change, but it's like you do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. If you don't change what you're doing, you don't get a different result. You have to keep changing and adapting. And talking about our expectations, do you share your expectations with your students on the first day of class? Discuss. Mr. Bullock, your hand is up.
Two things. I try to give them my expectations of what I expect from them, and at the same time help them understand how, because again, for the dual credit, not the correctional facilities, but for the dual credit, I realize that they're in high school, but I try to let them know what's expected in a college class, because a lot of them don't realize that you're expected to do pretty much as much away from class as in class, as far as homework assignments and everything. Now, that being said, what I've started to do is once every 2 weeks, because I teach 3 days a week for each of the classes there. So I take and I give them 1 day every 2 weeks where they can actually do the work in class and have me help them do the work and answer any questions and stuff like that. Because I do realize that even though they are taking a college class, they are still high school. And so I try to find a balance with them on, hey, this is what you can expect from college classes, but I realize my class is usually either my class or Dr. Williams' class is usually the first classes, college classes they take at all. And so I try to keep in mind that they are new to this, and I kind of guide them as much as I can.
Yeah, and talking about how we're dealing with our dual credit population is great, because over 2,000 of our current students are dual credit students. So the majority of our students are dual credit, and being able to serve that population is very important. So in discussing and sharing your expectations on the first class day, does anybody else have anything they want to say? What else do you discuss with your students on the first class day? Do we go over the syllabus?
Yes.
You go over the syllabus, Ms. Williams, Dr. Williams?
Yes, we do go over the syllabus, and I talk to them also about, and give them a handout also about when we're in class. One thing we never do is put others down or laugh at them if they err. I tell them that we all are here to support each other. We do work interdependent. We talk about what that means, as well as independent on some things. So I explain to them what that is, and I let them know that you're going to work together and help each other. If you see that, we also talked about doing group work. In fact, we did a demonstration about that, how we do the group work and the different assignments that each person has in the group. And, I have it such that not just one person will give input, but everybody in that group has a certain assignment. We have a recorder, we have a timekeeper, we have an evaluator, and so on. But anyway, what I'm showing them is how to work in a group. And I tell them that when you go on to your 4-year college, when you work, when you're in organizations, you always are going to be working with people and being interdependent. So we're going to start now learning how to do that. And so that's one of the things that we're doing in class. But it is specific. They know exactly what is expected because we talk about it, but I also give it to them in writing, and then we practice it in the classroom.
Good.
Thank
Carl
you.
Richardson has his hand up.
Hey, yeah, I just wanted to mention that I find the first couple of days of class is a good time to talk about the why as opposed to the how. If you're looking at course learning outcomes and what the point of the class is, because once you get into the first couple of weeks, then you're hitting benchmarks. You've got to stay on track, and that's a lot of the how. But the discussion early on, say the first day, I mean, I'm sure I do what everyone else does. Syllabus and break some things down so they have a clear understanding of that on a technical level. But then the why is really fun to get into sort of a philosophical discussion or how what they're learning might relate to their industry once they're out of the class. So I always enjoy that discussion.
Excellent, excellent comments. Dr. Michelle Judice.
I talk a lot about choices, that they make their own choices about attending and doing the work, of course. But then I also talk about the need to reach out and ask when they need help, that I am not a mind reader, that they have to tell me when they don't understand something, that we all get by with a little help from our friends, that they need to meet the people around them. And I give them that opportunity in the first week or a little more than that. But I want them to know that it's okay not to know everything, that there's going to come a time when they're going to need to look to the person on their side and say, hey, how did she do that? Or what did she want us to do? So I think choices and asking for help are the two things that I really start out with.
If any of you have had a chance to look through your textbook, they talk about the fork in the road and which way are you going to go? Because you need to pick a path that's going to be successful for you. And not everybody's going to choose the same path, but they may all get to success in the end. And helping students achieve the success that they need in the way that they need it is the hardest part of our jobs, in my opinion. Again, all of these are my opinions, not necessarily the college's opinions. We're dealing with a student population that comes from lower socioeconomic class, that may not have eaten in 2 days, that may not have a home to go home to, right? We have homeless students on our campus, and being able to serve the needs of those students and understand the challenges they face is hard for some of us that have never struggled to get through parts of the life. So we've talked a little bit about the syllabus and about expectations for the first class that you can talk about your students. How many of you include some sort of an attendance policy within your syllabus? I should see, let's see, there's 34 people on this call. I should see 34 hands raised. Yeah, you have to have some sort of an attendance policy within your syllabus. But you also need to share with students that the college has to follow certain laws and regulations regarding absences. So there's two big reasons students can be absent, and you can't count it against them. Okay, the first one is religious holidays. If a student has to be absent due to a religious holiday, and you have a test scheduled that day, you have to give them the opportunity to make up that test. And that's federal law. That would be religious discrimination. And so we have to be aware of what some of those religious holidays are. It would be a good idea to familiarize yourself with the Muslim calendar. I haven't seen very many Muslims on our campus, but in my previous life, we had some Muslim students, and their holidays are very different from ours. And so we had to be very careful, and we learned when to schedule when their major holidays were and didn't schedule major things on those days. The other thing is a state law that was passed just last year on parenting and pregnant students. So if a student has young children, if they are parenting children under the age of 5, right, not school age children, and even up to a certain extent, school age children. This does not apply if they're parenting a high schooler, right? We have to make certain allowances. Pregnant students have to be given the opportunity to have a sick day if they have to visit a doctor. So if you're not familiar with those policies, there is some information on our website. And I believe Dr. Bradford sent an email to all faculty here recently about the Senate Bill 17, which is the pregnant parenting students, and our parent liaison. You need to be aware of your parent liaison. That's Lori Marcantel, who does our special populations. So if you have any pregnant or parenting student that's coming in asking for any kind of accommodations or absence excuse, they do have to fill out the form with the special populations office. So I wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that. Sarah Smith has her hand up. Sarah?
Sorry, I was
Yeah, you were
was
muted.
raising it to the and I was raising it to the attendance policy, and so sorry, I
Okay,
didn't
and
know,
you did
I
lower
did
it.
not left it up. So you
Okay,
have to
that's
click it back
okay.
down?
I'll lower it for you.
Thank you.
All right, Dr. Williams?
Yes, I have a question since we're talking about that. I do have a policy, but I'm looking at something in the chat and it says something about 3 days free unexcused absence and letter grades drop. I mean, is that something that we do or what?
Faculty on the LSCPA campus can develop their own attendance policies. So yeah, if faculty want to, I know like in our process operating program, they can only miss 5 classes and then they get an F. Because again, they cover so much material every day in those classes that if you're absent, you're missing too much material. There's just no way to catch up. So we do have some classes on our campus that have very strict attendance policies. As long as it's in the syllabus and you follow what you have put in your syllabus, you're good. We've got some of our early college, high school instructors that locked the door to the classroom after 10 minutes so that if you're 15 minutes late, you don't get in. I mean, you got to be on time. We cover a lot of information. I was not monitoring the chat. Thank you for that. I'm going to open this chat box and put it over here so I can see what people are saying. Okay, let's see. Next on my list. Okay, so personal responsibility. One of the things the OnCourse textbook does, they have a whole chapter on personal responsibility. So what is personal responsibility? What do we expect from our students? Those of you that attended the workshop and have the workbook, on page 19 of that workbook is some great strategies for empowering students to accept personal responsibility. And after reading through these strategies, I am going to make sure that I get these copied and sent out to all faculty, because we do have a lot of adjunct faculty and new faculty that did not get the opportunity to attend the workshop. And this has some real good strategies for college and classroom activities, homework assignments, evaluation, your college classroom environment that promotes personal responsibility. And then the big one for me is modeling. We have to model the behavior that we want to see in our students. If you as a faculty member show up for an 8 o'clock class at 8:05, that's not good. If class is supposed to go from 8 to 8:55 and you let them go consistently at 8:40, that's not modeling good behavior. Of course, the students love that. They love to be able to leave early. But again, you could use that if you're finished lecturing for the day, you can use that extra time to have them ask questions, to work on any assignments that they have not completed, to ask you questions, just have a question and answer session, get to know each other a little bit. So there's lots of opportunities that we have if we model behaviors that we would like to see in our students. Does anyone out there want to talk about modeling behaviors? Okay, so there's 34 people on this call. Somebody say something. Let's see, who can I call on? I know I have some department chairs on here. Let's see who's the first department chair on my list. Dr. Canedo Gonzalez. I know you're there somewhere.
Well, modeling is, as you said, to be on time, be respectful of the other's ideas, be always willing to listen, and also be proactive. And when you do a work, be responsible for what you're doing. Don't think that, for example, artificial intelligence is going to do your work for you. So be very proactive, listen to others, being fair with when you evaluate somebody, when you evaluate a student, and be sensitive to the things that are needed in the classroom, and follow with the students, make them feel that they are important, so they will look to you as somebody who is also important.
Thank you, Dr. Canedo. I'm glad you mentioned AI and fairness, because again, we were talking about attendance policies. When you're enforcing any policies, any classroom policies, you have to make sure that you apply them consistently and fairly. You cannot treat students differently. Dr. Zani has his hand up.
I was just going to mention briefly what Dr. Gonzalez was making me think of was in terms of modeling, when I use material from someone else, I always make a point to tell my students that's what when I have particular sets of ideas, particularly in print, I mentioned, by the way, this all comes from this other source. It's not generated by me. I would say it's particularly important in English, but then it occurs to me, no, it isn't. It's important in every one of our disciplines to do that. Right, but because I just often am importing some idea from somewhere else, but particularly I'll pull in a paragraph or something of material I've gotten online, and I just always make that gesture so that they know they have to do that too.
Yeah, do you put citations in your PowerPoint?
I do, except I don't necessarily do the full MLA. I'll shortcut it, but there's always a gesture that says this is not my material. So
right, and that's acceptable. Okay, so as educators, when we're showing a PowerPoint and we're using someone else's material, I do like Steve. I don't put a full citation, but if I took something from Dr. Michelle Davis, I put that in there so that the student knows this is not my opinion or idea or form that I created. It was done by someone else. We always want to encourage our students to give credit when others do the work. And that brings up the AI aspect of what's out there today. If you've had any experience with AI and read papers that are created with AI, you can usually tell that something was created by AI and not a real person, because the speech pattern isn't there. If you try to read it out loud, oftentimes it doesn't sound right because it was a computer that generated it. But we also need to start looking at ways that we can incorporate artificial intelligence into the classroom. If students can have a way to use AI effectively in the classroom, using it to create content for an assignment, and then augmenting that content with their own ideas. So that's something you guys need to be thinking about. How can we incorporate AI into our curriculum? And in some courses, that's a little bit easier to do. And I don't know if, is Maurice Abelman on this call? I don't know if Maurice is on here today. So,
Yeah, I'm here.
there's Maurice. So Maurice does a fabulous job of incorporating AI in his graphic design program, but graphic design is the perfect place to incorporate artificial intelligence. Do you want to speak a little bit about that, Maurice?
Yeah, it's still kind of a sensitive area within the world today. There's a lot of ethical stuff that's connected to the AI, but making sure that students understand the difference between using an AI generated image from like the basic component that gets produced by the AI, and knowing the difference between claiming that as your finished work versus using it as a starting point to generate ideas for you, you know. So you can use it as like a reference material that will help you maybe with your compositions for a particular project. And then you can kind of, you know, work off of it and kind of expand upon it, you know. But I always try to reinforce that one's own creativity is a more powerful tool, and they should always try to create their own original content as much as they can. Maybe they can have some AI components, but the overall theme, the concept should be something they generate themselves.
So Maurice has found a way where they can use AI to augment or to get a starting point, but the original or the final product has to be their creation and not an AI creation. Leah, your hand is up.
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to mention a new Blackboard feature that's slated to be released. I'm not quite sure when, but it's called AI Conversations, and it will be a chat bot that you can put inside of your Blackboard and you can train it. So if you want to train it to be Albert Einstein and your student has a conversation with Albert Einstein, that's the way it's designed to be used. But it can be used in many different ways. You could give it your group project instructions, extremely detailed instructions, and your students could interact with it to brainstorm and get started on their group project. There's many different ways that this can be used. So if you're thinking about putting AI in your classroom, you can probably talk to Ebony about that new feature.
Thank you, Leah. Mr. Bullock?
Yes, I'd like to applaud both Leah and Mr. Abelman on what they've been doing with AI. I've been doing something in a similar vein to Maurice. Since I teach drawing 1 and drawing 2 at the correctional facilities. And unlike a normal classroom, I don't get free reign to bring in everything for them to draw from life. So a lot of things that they're drawing, I can bring in some things, but a lot of things that they draw end up being from photographs. And the problem with drawing from photographs is that someone else's work. It's already, that's copywritten, it's somebody else's work. So what I've been doing recently is I'll ask the students at the correctional facilities what kind of subject matter they want, like dogs or cats or animals, anything like that. They give me that. Then I go and when I come home, I generate multiple AI images, usually black and white photograph type AI images, and bring those images in for them to draw. That way they don't have to conflict with any copyright or anything like that if they really like an image. And you know, they're using their talent and their skill to use that as a basis.
Yeah, teaching in the prison can be challenging, and finding ways to.
It has its limitations.
Yeah, yes, it does. We've got several of our prison instructors on the call today. So yes, our student populations, whether it's in the prison or whether it's dual credit or whether it's our traditional students, they all have their own challenges. One of the things that we find with our younger students, our early college, high school, and our dual credit students is the ability to manage their emotions. And the on-course textbook has a good section on helping them to get less frustrated and to manage their failures in a more appropriate manner. When you first start college, they're going to make mistakes. They're going to not be successful. You have to learn how to study. You have to learn how to take good notes. Those are all skills that come with time. And our high school classes for our traditional students, those that have graduated from high school just does not prepare you for that. It doesn't prepare you to sit in an hour and 15-minute lecture class, listening to an instructor talk, show a PowerPoint, maybe have some activities, and take down the information that's pertinent to that day. So teaching students how to manage note-taking and test-taking strategies and just knowing what's important that the instructor is telling them. And so finding ways to incorporate learning assignments that teach them these skills is important. And I think the on-course textbook has a few ideas on that. Has anyone incorporated any of the on-course suggestions into their classroom? Have y'all tried anything in your classroom from on-course? Not seeing any hands. Okay, so Joanna Gott says you use the late assignment. Joanna, can you expand on that, or can somebody that has a microphone expand on that?
I'm with nursing as well with Joanna. As soon as she said that, that's when I raised my hand. My name is Andrea. We did the late assignment from on-course last semester, I believe. And we got some really cool results from it. We realized that the students all held this. I don't know if you guys remember the late assignment, but it was about who's responsible for an assignment being late. Is it the student? Is it the partner? Is it the peers, or is it the instructor? And I think the instructors were a little harder on themselves when we did it. We all thought, well, the instructor's being too harsh. But then when we gave it to the students all said that it was the student's responsibility, and they were holding the student accountable. So it was just great to kind of see like the differences and how we all perceive that assignment. So I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm with you, Andrea. When I read the assignment, I thought, 15 minutes late and she had car trouble? I mean, come on, have a heart. Yeah, I would have accepted the assignment as well. But it is interesting that the students thought that she should have not gone to the party.
Right, it was pretty interesting.
Okay, let's see what I have next on my list. So, passion for learning. How many of you have noticed students in your classrooms who actually have a passion for learning? Yeah, so I've had the opportunity to be into some of the early college classes recently and didn't get a whole lot of passion for learning out of those students. You know, they're in the class because they got chosen to be in early college, high school, and they're more concerned with what their friends are saying than doing their work in their Blackboard course, right? Yeah, so strategies for getting them into the learning environment. What can we do to help students want to learn? Chelsea.
Well, just to kind of continue on with your passion for learning conversation, what I've found with both early college developmental or all early college developmental and traditional students is less of a passion for learning in most of them as it is just a drive to succeed. You know, especially I found with the early college, they seem more driven to get that A, right? They want that A on their transcript or their progress reports or whatever, you know, less of a passion for learning in the process, but more of a how do I go about getting this A? And so I think for me, at least in my field, it's been easier for me to try to motivate them to want to learn if they're kind of rewarded with, you know, several, like we were talking about, low stakes assignments or assignments that build up to, like, if we're working on an essay, let them do an outline first and get a little, you know, the low point outline assignment and then a rough draft assignment and then the big assignment, right? And that also allows me the chance to kind of get in there in between their writing processes and kind of intervene and help them shape their grammar and show where you're doing really well here, but you could work on this, right? So it works a little bit well, I think, in my field, but I have noticed that it's less of a passion for learning as it is just a drive to make an A. And that's been across all my classes, like traditional students or not. So
Mary Catherine Wilbur, who is one of our first-time teachers, she's a brand new teacher. I don't know if everybody can see the chat, but Mary Catherine, did you want to talk or do you want me to read your comment? I don't.
I can talk.
Okay.
I can talk. Yeah, it's just, in drawing classes, the students usually want to be there because, it's art, you have to really want to do it because it's hard to succeed in. But in art appreciation, they have to take it and they have to sit through it. I'm still learning. I've been getting good advice, but keeping them engaged in a lecture class is much harder than in a class where I get to individually work with each student and address all their struggles.
So in your art appreciation class, do you primarily lecture the whole period?
At first I did that and they were like, we're not learning anything. So now I'm trying to do more class engagement assignments and leave some of the material in the book for them to read and then do more assignments and in-class activities, which are working so far.
When you get a minute, come by my office and I'll give you a book.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm always willing to help. I have a couple of books that I think you would be interested in.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Michelle Judice has typed a comment in there. Do you want to talk about your comment?
Yeah, it definitely depends on the students. Today I had a non-traditional student come up after class. We're doing resumes and cover letters. And he came up and he said, thank you so much for doing this. It really matters in what he's doing right now. He's an older than average gentleman looking for a job. And this is real world skills. And I keep telling them, I know that you're not going to go out and write essays for a living, but you're going to use your communication skills, your writing skills in real ways in whatever field you go into. And so I keep saying it, and I keep hoping they believe me eventually.
I think they will.
That it matters to them, that it is going to be useful. It's, what are you good for? I keep asking them that. They're going to hire you. What skills do you bring to the table? What are you good for? So I keep hoping that it eventually sinks in and it matters to them.
You do a good job. It will. Leah, your hand is up.
Yes, I am very blessed because I teach science. So I get to see my students for a traditional academic course and a hands-on lab course. So I get to kind of build excitement for my class and like, oh, if we get through this material, we get to do something really fun in lab. Or this week we're going to make slime because we're learning about polymers. So I get to really build that excitement, but also use lots of games and things that are just naturally fun for the student. And I just add my content into that game. So that's one of the ways that I create excitement and engagement with my students.
Mr. Bullock?
Yes, I was going to comment on Miss Wilbur with the art appreciation and say some of the things I do. But Leah said exactly one of the things that I like to do is I like to take at least a couple days a semester and we just play drawing games. And this is for the art appreciation, not the drawing students, but the art appreciation. And we basically have little competitions where everybody names out 3 things. It could be pirate, alien, on Saturn, and the 2 people up there compete against each other, drawing, and they're timed for like 3 minutes. So it's not a fantastic, great drawing. It's just whatever they can get down, and it gives them the opportunity to kind of play around, compete with each other, and lightens the class up. And for the art appreciation, what I also like to do to kind of break up the monotony of just lecturing and stuff like that is, since part of the art appreciation book covers media, the material, the medium that artists create work from, I like to actually bring in different mediums. Sometimes I'll bring in just artistic graphite pencils, charcoal. I've brought in gouache before, oil, and just let them play around and see what it's like. Just they're not going to develop a full a work of art out of it, but just to get their hands a little dirty and just to break up the day, and that way they're not straight just reading and trying to understand everything from the textbook, because they are young. I feel like they need to be exposed to it. Now, I'm also very lucky because in my art appreciation classes, it is at the high school and it's in an art class. So sometimes I don't even have to bring the materials in. Ms. Walgass will already have some of the materials for them to play with on each of the chapters that have to do with the mediums and materials.
Thank
That was
you.
wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, see, collaboration, teamwork, getting ideas into this Blackboard shell that will be a repository for all of our wonderful ideas. Okay, so we are now at 2:51, so we have about 9 minutes before we have to be done. I do want to mention our next meeting will be on October the 16th. And it'll be the same similar format as this, where you share your ideas. If you would like to try out some of the teaching strategies between now and then and share during this time, that would be great. We'll be going through different chapters of this textbook and talking a little bit about what each covers. The next 2 do talk about motivation and self-management and employing interdependence. That's the next 3 chapters. Which is where our focus will be. If you want to skim over those chapters, you're not required to read the whole textbook or even read any of the textbook, but it sure helps with the discussion if you have a little bit of an idea of what we're talking about. And I'll come back again with 4 or 5 questions that we'll talk about and discuss and go through this. I sincerely appreciate all of your time. And everything that each of you do for Lamar State College, Port Arthur. We are the best college in the area, and it's because of the faculty that we employ. So I do appreciate everything that y'all do. I do not want to keep you past the time. Does anyone have anything else they would like to contribute? Thank you all for being here today. All of those comments coming in. Enjoy the rest of the semester, and I hope to see all of you back on the 16th of October.
Thank you.
Bye.